Hello, gorgeous beauties. So, I want to take you through my experience of having lived with a girl that had borderline personality disorders. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's like 9 criteria for borderline personality disorder, which we'll talk about in another video. At the time, I didn't know any of these criterias or any of these problems that were arising. I just thought, okay, this girl's a little bit weird and we're gonna have to deal with it until the end of the relationship, which I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So at the beginning, how did I meet her? So I was at a yoga class. I taught. She seemed very nice. Started talking to her, and normally you're not supposed to date your students. So and I normally don't date my students, but we hit it off. So it's like it happened. Started dating her. It was fun. And I wasn't aware of what's called the love bombing phase. I just thought this girl was really into me, which no girl was ever into me that much, that quick. So that part was a bit odd. But there was a lot of love bombing, like nice words, kind words. Oh, you're the best. Oh, you're this. You're that. Okay, so I went for it. I didn't have a car and I still don't have one. So she used to come pick me up at work, and she was excited to come pick me up at work. It was all good. And then like it started to get a little weird, but I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot anyways. She's like, I'm gonna move at my grandmother's, and I mean, I'm not being mean. It's just a fact. Girls like to hint and insinuate. They never tell you things straight off the bat because they want you to figure it out for yourself. So, like, kind of silly me, I was like, yeah, why don't you come in and move with me? It's like that was like big mistake number one. So she came in, she moved with me, and like even the day she moved, it was weird. Like she was supposed to pay the trucker like something like $80, and then she comes up to me, she's like, I paid for most of my move. You could at least pay the $80. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So I paid the $80, and that wasn't a really big deal. There's no problem there. Anyway, she moves in, and she had like I don't know, 20, 30 boxes, which she did not move from their place for like a month. So let's say the truckers moved in all her stuff. There was boxes in front of the corridor from getting to the door to the kitchen. There was boxes in the living room, and there was actually boxes upon boxes in front of my computer. So when I had to check my emails, I had to sit on the boxes, and like it was really hard to access my computer. All right, so no problem. Your growing pains of living with someone, and so on. So, anyways, she makes this list of stuff she has to do and then stuff I have to do. And it was a pretty equal list, not factoring in the fact that I actually have to go to work. So in reality, it's not really that much of an equal list because I had to pay for the rent and I had to pay for the majority of the expenses, although I did give her some expenses. And when I used to have to come home, I used to have to cook right away so that she could eat, even though she hadn't worked that day. And then dishes pile up because you're tired from work and you're tired from cooking. So on my end, the dishes would pile up as well. And guess whose job it was to clean the dishes? It was also my job to clean the dishes because that's what she wrote on the list. So you're starting to get it by now that I really played the role of the simp, and I agree with that. Like I was really a big simp. When I started to see a big problem is so like laundry was her chore to do. So at one point she takes like all the dirty clothes, all the tablecloth, a bunch of my pants that I use for yoga. She throws them in front of the washroom door, thinking, okay, she's sorting them out. She's gonna do this laundry any minute now. They stayed there for like 2.5 weeks. So 2.5 weeks having like difficulty getting and navigating myself through the washroom without having to step on anything. So I'm like, okay, this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. Then I realize she's like just spending all kinds of money on getting her nails done, on getting her hair done, and it's like no big deal. The problem is she wasn't working, and she figured out a way to stop working. Now, one of the reasons I didn't mind her moving in with me is that when I met her, she had a job, and she had had this job for a year. But as I'm dating her, this problem comes up where she's starting to have like digestive problems. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like all this stuff is happening at the same time. You meet this girl, she's moving in with you, digestive problems. It's like too much stuff. But you're like, okay, you're having sex and you're carried away and you're in love, and so like you're running with the ball, right? So as the months progress, she's using this digestive problem as a reason not to work. So she's not. She wants to like go on social welfare, not work. If she goes on social welfare in Quebec, it's called chômage. It's like a social welfare that you're entitled to if you've worked. I believe it's like over 400 or 600 hours or something like that, or like 6 months of full time. And so she wants to use her sickness to not work. So now I have this house which is a complete disaster. This girl that doesn't want to work. And I mean, look, I know a lot of girls think that men should pay for everything, but as a yoga teacher, like I was making 35,000 a year. Like in reality, I can't keep a girl home. And that's another thing. A lot of you girls have to assess what your husband is making or what your boyfriend is making before you could like envision this silly idea that he's going to keep you home and that you're not going to help him out, which was like really her silly idea, right? So, anyways, long story short, there's one point where she's about to be ready to go back to work. The digestive problems are kind of easing off, and she goes back to work. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know if she did it on purpose. I don't know if it was a haphazard situation, coincidence. That day, the day before she's ready to go back to work, she smashes her finger in the car door. So now you have this bleedy finger, and she works in a shipping factory, so she used to pick up boxes. So because her finger's smashed, she obviously can't go back to work and pick up boxes. So she finds a way to get herself fired with the ability to collect chômage. And I'm like, okay, whatever. She's not working, or maybe she's gonna take care of the house more. Things are gonna be taken care of more. So she stays home for multiple weeks, multiple months, smoking up, taking medication, just sleeping in all day long. And throughout this period, my grandmother was like sick, and she was dying, right? So so one thing that was good about her, she brought me to see my grandmother at the hospital like every day. So for that, I am eternally grateful for this girl, although it's like probably the only thing I'm grateful for in this girl. So in this period, I'm all okay, like my grandmother's not doing well, but I'm telling her, listen, you have to go to work. Like you spend too much money for what you make. But she's like, yeah, but the debts aren't yours. I'm like, yeah, but I'm living with you, so I will acquire those debts at some point, and I want you to avoid debt, so I want you to go back to work. So in my head, I was like, if the house is gonna be a mess anyways, at least like go to work and make sure I don't get into debt medium to long term. Like go to work. So by this point, she figures out that in her twisted borderline head, that she's gonna buy a dog, which it's this dog, and I love this dog, but it was really an inappropriate time to buy a dog. My grandmother was in the hospital, she wasn't working, and Bernese Mountain Dogs are $2,000 dogs. So she buys this dog, and as I'm like scratching the surface of why she's buying this dog, she thinks that because she bought the dog, I was going to allow her to stay home to take care of the dog. So she bought the dog so she didn't have to go to work. And me now, like I'm switching on, like I'm not being a simp anymore. I'm just like, no, you're going to go to work. And the dog will take care of it when we come back. So at first she was taking care of the dog, like so, it's like she walking him, taking care of. But the poor dog had digestive problems. I know it's ironic. She had digestive problems. The dog had digestive problems. The poor dog had digestive problems from the very beginning that we got him. So there's diarrhea all over the house, waking up in the middle of the night, cleaning up the dog's poop. $1,000 of vet bills. All right. So in this period, she finally starts working. So she works at this bar. And I had a feeling like that she met this guy almost right away. But this point, I was getting clever. I actually wanted her to leave, so I'm just like, let this play out. Let this play out with this guy. So she's like starting arguments with me, which, by the way, a good indication that your relationship is over and that your girlfriend is starting to see someone new is that arguments come out more than normal. She's less appreciative for stuff you do, and she's less tolerant of you. So, more and more fights are breaking out. It's like the dog, she's taking care of it less and less. I'm walking the dog more and more. I'm cleaning after the dog's poop more and more, etc., etc. So she's working. She's working. She went from not wanting to work to working 12, 14-hour shifts. So I'm like, all right, this is interesting. By the way, on a side note, this girl had a lot of tattoos. And I don't particularly find anything wrong with girls with tattoos. But when the tattoos are weird and they're too many, you know that there might be something psychologically wrong with this person that you're dating. Now, it doesn't apply to everyone, but it definitely applied to her. So she had this weird tiger tattoo on her back. And there would be nothing wrong with a tiger tattoo except for the fact that it looked like it was drawn by a 4-year-old, and she paid like $500-600 for it. So it's just like the girl looked like a big hot mess. Things you realize as time goes along. Anyway, so she starts working at this bar, and I'm kind of letting it play out. So I have a feeling like there's someone else lurking. But I'm still like, trying to work things out, not knowing where I am emotionally. So one night we get into a fight, and I had a really good feeling she wasn't going to come home, but I didn't want it to be on my end directly. But I knew this was the night it was going to be over. So it's like I call her, I'm like, listen, I have supper ready if you want to come. She's like, no, I'm just going to hang out with my friends and blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right. At midnight, she doesn't come home. 2 in the morning, she doesn't come home. 3 in the morning, doesn't come home. I waited till 6 in the morning. By now, I know she's having an affair, and by now, I know she's taking advantage of me, so it's time to clear this person out. I wrote her dad, who was in Cancun. I wrote her mom. 6 in the morning, I said, your daughter didn't come home tonight. I'm breaking up with her. It's over. So this girl got scared. It's like, well, you're kicking me out. But I'm like, you didn't come back home. So, I technically threw her out that day. But then I'm like, I give you a month to, gather your stuff and leave, which was pretty nice. Throughout that month, I found 2 baggies of empty cocaine. And they weren't, small baggies. They were, 8-ball baggies. So, those big bags that, Tony Montana style of cocaine in the baggies. So I was like, what is this? So this girl was doing cocaine in my house, cheating at me while she was still in my house. And she was plotting her retirement living with me on a yoga salary, which is completely insane. Anyways, fast forward to when she moved out, because I had seen her once or twice afterwards. As she moves out, she's working, and I knew she was going to try and get her way to stop working again. So where did she move out? As soon as I threw her out, she found a way to live with the guy that she was cheating on me with, right away. So I kicked her out, planning to move with somebody. Right away, the guy takes her. In a month, they move in together. So same thing that happened with me. Knew her fast, lived with her. He knew her fast. He lived with her. And now I know, I know what's going on. So I'm like, this girl is going to find her way to stop working within a few weeks of living with this guy. What does she do one night? She's partying with the guy. They're all going crazy and blah, blah, blah. She feigns an argument. She's devastated. She takes a glass and she smashes it on the table. And the same finger rips out again. The same finger gets cut again. And now she can't work. Poor her, she can't work. So now this guy's stuck with her. He's got to pay the rent. He's got to pay for the food. And I was happy because she was gone. By the way, let's go back a little bit. At one point, she's like, you owe me money for the dog. Because I didn't really want the dog at the beginning, so she forked out all the money. I said, listen, you're the one that wanted the dog. So this is what's going to happen. Either you leave with the dog, which I was bluffing. Either you leave with the dog, or I no longer owe you any more money for the dog. So she left, and I didn't pay her any more money for the dog. Anyways, so she moves in with this guy, and years later, with all this disaster, and I heard they were cheating on each other, they were doing nasty stuff to each other. I heard even other things that we're not going to talk about quite yet, like they had a kid together. And I was like, oh my God, I saved myself so many headaches from this one person. So why am I making this video? Never move in with somebody you just met. Be very cautious when somebody's too tattooed, too anxious to get into a relationship with you. Have your eyes open, whether you're a guy or a girl, to people's mental and emotional shortcomings and maybe diseases. And always be mindful of the people that are around you that are trying to screw you over and that are trying to get one up on you and trying to eat off your back, whether you're a man or a woman. There is so many more stories that I have, but already we're almost at 16 minutes. So if you have questions, commentary, please like and share. And let me know what you thought of the story. Namaste. Say bye, Ozzy. He's looking.